Hey friends, Kim from stampingimperfection.com. I'm here with a video for Scrappy Tales crafts today, and I'm using the rose petal stamp set. I'm going to use that little bud vase and one of the sentiments from this stamp set, and I'm going to do 3 quick watercolor techniques. I love to watercolor, I haven't done it in a while, so I just really have been in the mood to watercolor lately. So I'm going to take this little bud vase stamp and I'm going to stamp it onto watercolor paper. I've got my paper cut down to 3 3/4 by 5, and I'm going to use my Versamark ink here, and you can see I'm re-inking it because it was getting pretty dry, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's straight. I know I'm being a little fussy, but it looked a little crooked on my Misty there. So I'm using my Pentel. Actually, I'm trying out this other eraser that I got, but I usually use my high polymer Pentel eraser, which I just got at CVS for a couple of dollars. And I usually just swipe it across a stamp before I use the stamp the first time, and that removes any residue from the manufacturing process. So I'm stamping this 3 or 4 times on to this watercolor paper because the watercolor paper has a texture, and I want to make sure that I get that image completely stamped. And since I just re-inked it, that helps a lot, so I get a really nice image here. Now before you stamp, you do want to use your powder tool if you have a powder tool. I don't use a powder tool. I just got really good with the paintbrush and my little Tim Holtz craft pick tool if I need it. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set this. I often start by heat setting the back to warm up my heat tool, and it warms up the back of the paper, and then the whole heat setting process happens really quickly. So I just wipe it off with a paper towel or my microfiber cloth, and I'm just going to pull out some inks. I've got my water. I've got this really nice Princeton Velvet Touch brush that I like. It's a number 4 round, and it's my favorite brush. I like it. It's a little bit firmer than the silver ones that somebody else recommended. So I like a slightly firmer brush, so that's why I'm picking that. So I'm using these new colors I got from Catherine Puller. I don't even know the names of them. This is Do-Si Do and Pucker Up, and I only know that because I can see them. So I just I squished them onto my craft mat, spritzed it with water, and then I'm just using my paintbrush to add it to my image, and I'm just going right over that embossing, and I'm putting this light pink all over both of those buds. Then I'm going to take this Pucker Up, which I love. It's like a purpley pink, and I'm doing the same thing, only I'm just dropping it into the base because now I've got that wet ink on there. So I'll just drop that into the wet ink, and the water will do all the work mixing the colors and moving them around. And my goal for this card is not to fuss with it too much. Sometimes when I watercolor, I fuss too much. So I want the water to do all the work here. So I'm wetting down the leaves now. And I've got this eucalyptus color that I love. It's a darker green. And then I have the lime Ricky, which is a more yellowy green. The darker green I put along the base of each leaf, and the yellowy one I put toward the tips, and then the water helps mix them together. So I'm just adding water to all the rest of the stems and the leaves, and I'm just going to drop that eucalyptus color in, and then I'll add some of that lime Ricky yellowy green. And I consider just using her new yellow, her chiffon yellow, and dropping it into the tips to have it more yellow. Sometimes I like to just add yellow. Sometimes I like to add a little brown to give a little realistic touch to the leaves. Now, as I'm doing this, the rose buds themselves are drying, and I can see that they're really lightening up a lot. I like them to be a little bit more vibrant, so I'm going to add a bit more color to a few spots there, and I'm not brave enough yet to really add it and get a dark shadow in the places I need to. So that is something I'm working on and something I'm trying to do a little bit here. So I'm a work in progress with my watercoloring. This is the point I'm at right now. So I'm going to clean those colors up, and I'm going to pull out this pretty new, this is called Cummerbund, and it's a blue color, and I want to put that inside the vase. So I'm going to add water, and I want it to be light. Like, these are soft, light colors that she's come out with for the most part. Not that pucker up one, but these are really pretty. So I'm adding some light blue in there, and I'm going to pull out the light gray twilight color that I have, because I didn't take that blue all the way to the top. I want the blue to look like water, but I want the rest of the vase to look clear. So I'm going to add a little bit of this light twilight gray color to the stem and the base and the top above my water line. And then I'm going to drop some more of that blue in there, especially toward the bottom, to make it a little darker. So now she's also got this green color, and I've forgotten the name of that. I can't even, they're so new, I can't remember the names. Let me see if I can find it. It's In the Park. The green is called In the Park, and I'm just using that along the bottom of my, like below my bud vase, to ground my vase. So I don't want it to look like it's hanging out in air. I always like it to look like it's sitting on something. So I just put a little bit of green under there. And that blue water dried, so I'm adding a little bit of that gray down the side of the water, just to give it a little bit of a shadow and darken it up. So the trick here for me is to stop fussing and to move it aside and let it dry. I can put a second layer on if I want to. For the second card I'm going to create, I had this idea in my head that I wanted to try, and I have this piece of watercolor paper, and I'm using a big wide flat brush to just cover the whole paper with water. And I was going to put the pinks toward the tops, then the greens, and then the blue toward the center of the bottom, and then that new green, the In the Park green, around the blue. But the blue and the green at the bottom really ended up blending together. And the eucalyptus green that I used, it's sort of a brownish green as it is. It turned even more brown because, of course, I put it on top of red, and those two colors are going to make brown anyway. But I'm going to go ahead and let this dry. I went and had lunch and let all my panels dry. So the next step for this piece is to heat emboss that image on top. And again, I'm going to use black for this. I had kind of hoped that the pink would sort of end up where the flowers were, the green sort of where the leaves were, and then the blue sort of where the vase was. And it didn't work out too badly. It's sort of more of an abstract look. Like, this is a really quick way to watercolor. And I heat set that and put that aside, because the next step is to add my splatters. So I just picked 3 ink colors, and I spritzed them with water, and I'm using my little round brush to pick up that wet ink and splatter them on. And I did that to both of those panels that I made. Now I'm going to make a really quick third card because I wanted to try this. I have this pattern paper that looks like watercolor paper in my stash, and I've had it for a while, so I'm going to heat set an image on the top of this. And I think I would have liked this much better if I picked a different color of embossing powder, because I had in my hand this rose gold color, which I love. It's one of my favorites, antique gold and rose gold. So this is a slick paper, so I did ink this up a couple times and just hoped it would work. Instead, I grabbed this golden peach color. Not loving it. I think a different color of embossing powder would have looked much better. I thought black would look too stark, and I didn't think white would show up well enough. I think the gold would have been really nice. I don't love the peach color, but I'm going with it. It's done. So I'm going to heat set it, and then I'm going to take my little Tim Holtz scissors and fussy cut this out. So I'm just going to go around there and fussy cut that. And then I'll pop that up on some foam. But first I need a watercolor panel for this. So I'm going to pull out that Cummerbund blue, and I'm going to do the same thing with the flat brush. And I just didn't wet the paper this time. I put this right on dry paper and just put a blue wash on the back. I'll add some black splatter. And I didn't wait for it to dry, so when you don't wait for it to dry, the black sort of blends in. So then I took my heat tool and dried it. Like I just quickly dried it, and then I just did a little bit more splatter so I could get some darker black splatter along with the lighter. And I like layering the splatter. I think that looks really cool. That's something I learned from Vicky Boutin. Now I'm gonna go for a bike ride while these flatten. They're all dry. I'm just going to flatten them with my clear blocks, and I went for a 25-minute bike ride. Now I'm just gonna add my my top panels to different colors of mats, and I'll add them to my card bases. The mats are 1/4 inch wider and 1/4 inch longer than the panels that I have, and I'm just putting them on a card base that's 4.25 by 11, scored and folded at 5.5. To finish them off, I made sure each one had a sentiment of some sort, and I added some clear drops, and that completes my cards. And those are 3 quick watercolor cards. I'll put all the links to the Scrappy Tales supplies below. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel while you're here. Thanks for watching.